Being 6:30, I'll call the meeting to order and take the roll. Renee?
Come on, Brad.
Gary?
Yes.
Jack?
Yes.
Mike Flaherty?
Yep.
I'm here, and I've seen Mike Unit, so all are present, including the town manager. I will dispense with the Pledge of Allegiance. The only flag I have is outside. I see nothing on the agenda for appointments and resignations. I see nothing for licenses and permits. I know there was one announcement in our packet. Jack, would you like to read that?
Is that the Purple Heart one that you're referring to?
Actually, it's about the, was it Hut Stanley Week in Norton?
I don't see that in my packet.
Okay, it came on the internet late this afternoon.
Gotcha.
Okay, I can read it, it's no problem. It's Hut Stanley Week in Norton.
Flat. Brad, Flat Stanley.
Oh, see, I can't read it myself. It's put on by the Norton Parks and Recreation, and you locate as many of the Flat Stanleys around town as you can. And you could win a $25 gift card to Altitude Trampoline Park. They're hidden throughout the town. There are 20 Flat Stanleys, and they could be anywhere from street signs and store windows to people's yards and schools. Find as many as you can between May 16th and May 25th. Email your list of locations to, I'll just spell it out. It's capital R, lowercase I-C-E, capital S, at nortonmaus.com. And that's by 5 p.m. on Monday, May 25th. And you'll be entered into the drawing to win the $25 gift card. Does anyone else have any other announcements? If not, we'll go on to new business and start with an update on the COVID-19. Should we go to you, Mike, or we're going to jump right to the Board of Health?
I'll jump in.
Okay.
Good evening, everybody. So we'll go over the cases as of today. This afternoon, we're at 142 total cases. We've had a very busy couple of days. Total cases out of isolation and on the road to recovery is at 72. And unfortunately, we added a death over the weekend, so we're at 3. We've been doing constant case tracking and contact tracing. Donna, do you want to pipe in a little bit on the tracking and tracing? But more so on the CTC. Make sure you unmute. There you go.
I noticed 2 weeks into it or so, I was having an easier time with contacts because so many people were staying home. So the new confirmed cases didn't have as many people to investigate or interview. Now that's changing, and I'm getting a lot more contacts. Today I had 2 very involved cases that were both workplace cases where one worker was confirmed positive, and therefore many people had to be identified, quarantined, in general dealt with. So it's getting bigger. The state has rolled out their CTC, that's Contact Tracing Collaborative, and that has been helpful to a point, but there are a lot of limitations. So I do have 2 retired nurses who have stepped up, and they are both going to help me. And I also have the school nurses who are helping me. So we're getting it done, but it's, as I said before, it's a really big job, and it just reminds me of a waterfall. It just doesn't stop. So anyway, wish I could be more uplifting, but
Uh,
I'm overwhelmed.
it's up, Donna.
We'll get there eventually.
Yeah.
Eventually.
So some of the other, thank you, Donna. So some of the other things that we're doing is, I'm working on maintaining a list for positive cases and addresses for the Norton first responders, which has been, working out well, keeping communications with the fire and police. Working on, I recently drafted some town hall reopening plans and procedures. They're not near done yet. We're kind of waiting on the governor's report on Monday, as well as Renee, I really appreciate you passing on the information from the, from FEMA. So we'll put all that stuff together and try to come up with a real good plan for reopening. At this point, we're not sure how that's gonna go, with how many people are actually gonna be returning. Also, I've been assisting the library with their reopening plan. I was in on their meeting Tuesday night, and they've got quite a plan drafted up, and we're working out the kinks in that as well. They have to be made essential before they can open, but they're planning ahead. Next week, Monday or Tuesday, we're supposed to be getting the town hall outfitted with the sneeze and cough shields. I had a few companies out this week, and I chose the best one to take care of putting up the sneeze and cough shields at each window. Some of them are going to be permanent, some are going to be temporary, depending on the type of counter. Estelle, I do need to talk to you about how we want to handle your office. You weren't really there when I was around, and I'm not sure how we would handle your situation with the way your office is set up, but we'll get together on that. But again, that stuff should be done the beginning of the week. What else we got going on? I put together a meeting of the minds, kind of a small little group of department heads. We had the two chiefs, myself, Donna Palmer, the public health nurse. We had Ray Cord from NEMA, Director of Council on Aging, the Veterans Agent, and also we're gonna have Wade Lizotte from the school. Facilities manager, director of facilities, excuse me. Some of the other involvement will be Norton CERT and MRC. This is we're trying to put together a safety plan for election, and if we're gonna end up having a town meeting. We wanna make sure that we have everything in place for social distancing, for hand sanitizer, for, excuse me, but sanitizing microphones after every use, sanitizing bathrooms. So we just want to make sure we're ready and prepared. So we're starting way ahead of time to try to put together a plan for if that day comes. And it's very early stages. We've only had the one meeting on that, just to kind of get an idea of what we're looking to do, put a focus on the group, and then everybody's got to put their head together and come back next week with some ideas. So we really don't have a whole lot to share on that. Let me see what else we got. We're dealing a lot with the essential businesses. Hair salons have been real tough. They're dying to get back into business, and I understand that. It's a tough situation for everybody. So we're trying to keep people safe and make sure that they're not opening too early. What else we got? We've gotten a lot of supplies in. I've gotten some of the thermal, the non-contact infrared thermometers, the gun style like you see on the news where people are getting their temperatures checked. Something we could utilize for the meetings as well, which was one of our thoughts at our preliminary meeting that we had last week. We've got a bunch of hand sanitizer in. We've got a bunch of surgical masks in. And I've also got Tyvek suits, which I hope we don't have to use at a town meeting, but, and then we haven't stopped the functions of the Board of Health. We've still been doing food establishment inspections, as well as, the septic housing and nuisance complaints, and, licensing and permitting. Right now we're dealing with, stable licenses and that type of thing. So we're still busy on that end as well. As you know, Cumberland Farms was closed Friday afternoon, they had one of their employees came down with COVID. And so they shut down the store Friday, and it was shut down until Tuesday morning. They brought a professional cleaning company in on Saturday, spent the day there cleaning and sanitizing. And then the regular Cumberland Farms crew was in there for the rest of the time, wiping things down and washing things down. I believe a big reason why they were also closed till Tuesday was because they had to put together another staff, because most of the staff that was there was in contact and they had to keep them away. So, but they're back open again. And from what I know, the positive case is doing well. So, and that's about it right now.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, I guess we'll move on to the next thing. Yes.
I'm sorry,
Yes,
it's Renee. Can I ask a couple questions?
Sure.
I didn't want to interrupt while they were giving updates. The first question, I know, Donna, you mentioned about the tracking. Have you noticed in the contact tracing, is there anything that's leading you to believe that there's some sort of a hotspot within Norton?
No, not at all. I have noticed something I mentioned to the state epidemiologist today when I called about another matter. I'm noticing that so many people have a very mild illness and recover quickly. And they seem to be that same way within the family, because I'm seeing more and more families where the spouse gets it and maybe someone else. The people who get really sick, they all seem to get really sick. So I just had a family last week where the daughter was a nurse, lived with her parents, probably brought it home. She was the first one to get sick and be tested, but then mom and then dad. Now mom and dad are in their 60s. The daughter in her 30s, the mom, both wound up in the hospital. They didn't have to go on ventilators, but they had pneumonia. They were very, very sick. And then when dad got it, he was also very sick. He didn't get hospitalized. And this is what I'm seeing, is that when there's a bad strain, a bad reaction for somebody, the people around them seem to be worse than all these other people who get a very mild illness and move on. But I don't have scientific data to back that up. That's just what I'm noticing.
It's almost like you don't know if it's genetic or if it's a different strain.
Right. Yeah. I have no idea, but I've noticed that.
The different strain thought is very concerning.
Yeah. I want to say a shout out to our nursing homes. And every time I commend them, they say, please don't say that, but they're doing really well. And also the North Cottage, which has a very large, it's 266 beds. They have done very well. They've had a number of cases, but they've isolated them. They've had 3. They've isolated them and no one else has gotten it. You know, the guys are wearing masks within. Not everybody's as compliant as they could be, but so far, so good. And the staff there is so helpful to me when I call. They call me sometimes before I even call them. The group homes that we had in Norton really had a problem. And we had more than I knew. I didn't know all the group homes. They don't have to report to the health department by law. I knew we had 1, Chris knew a couple more, but there were actually 5. And they really had a problem. All their residents got it, but you can't, those people are hard to convince to keep a mask on. They don't understand. So what the group home did was reverse precautions, and I thought that was genius. So all their staff wore full precautions every day for their shift, and they stayed for 2 weeks. They stayed and lived there. And then when their 2 weeks were up, they went home to their families and new staff came in to cover the patients. And that's how they managed it. So their staff didn't all get completely sick. And they're all on the mend. So that's good.
That is good. That's dedication. That's tough.
It's so dedicated. I was very impressed with them.
Mm-hmm. And then you mentioned too, I mean, just the amount of time that it takes. We talked earlier about, was it the Bristol? Is there some sort of a Bristol?
Yes.
The name's escaping me. Can they provide any resources?
Certain ones. none that I'm using. They're using them for food deliveries and that type of thing, those kinds of resources. But I'm really in the illness and the contact tracing part of things. So it's best if I use nurses because they have some of that knowledge. I'm not saying other people couldn't be trained, but even the nurses I'm working with aren't familiar with this type of format. And so it's taking some time on my part to train them. And then almost every time they have questions, they're still helping me. So I'm not knocking it. And I really want to, and I've told them all point blank, I'm bringing you on for vaccination time because I'm going to need an army when it's time to vaccinate people. So, and they've been helpful, but it's yeah, the time today, I spent the entire day, really, I think about 7 hours on really 2 cases. And it was the workplace, and then calling their HR departments and getting all the information, all the contacts these people were with. It was very, very time consuming, and calling back the epidemiology. One thing that's wonderful is we have 2 webinars a week on Tuesday and Friday, and we learn new data every single week and new methods of dealing with it. But it's really hard to keep up with. So this is just a small example. I haven't had a chance to tell Chris yet, but on Tuesday's webinar, they set a new recommendation for quarantine for people who are, and they call them, they didn't call them healthcare workers though. On all of our PowerPoints it said HTW, healthcare workers, but they call them essential workers. They don't, if they're exposed to a confirmed case and they don't have any symptoms, they can still continue to work. That's the new recommendation. And that's based on the fact that so many people who were quarantined for 14 days after exposure did not get it. So now it's kind of a pecking order. So if you're a more essential worker, you are allowed to continue working unless you get symptoms, but they also want you to be tested. So if your coworker gets it and is confirmed, you need to be tested, and if you're negative, you can keep working until you, and hopefully don't get symptoms. And that's a new, so that really changed how I dealt with those 2 workplaces today. So it's a lot.
Yeah, and that's specific guidance now?
It is, yes.
That's really amazing considering it can spread without symptoms.
Well, the idea, I know it. I think it's because.
Not to mention you could test positive the following day, you know?
Right.
I think it's more of a looking at the greater good. Most people don't. So there will be some who will have it and infect other people, but most won't. And you can't have the whole police department shutting down or the whole fire department shutting down. And then there's the hospital workers. So they're trying to approach it in the best way to keep people and also some essential businesses still up and running.
Yeah, have they strengthened the guidance then for those who may have been exposed that they must, like that PPE is required?
Yes, not full PPE, but everyone has to wear a mask, maintain the 6-foot distance, and everyone has to be tested. Well, once again, not mandatory, highly recommended.
Oh,
It's like they're afraid to make the decision.
right.
Yeah, next week it'll be mandatory.
Yeah.
Right now it's highly recommended. But so far everyone's more than willing to do it. Another snafu I was telling Chris about, now there's antibody testing, and that is creating a new challenge because if someone has the antibodies, they test positive, you don't know if it's a new infection or an old one. So every single person who gets a blood test and it comes back positive, they're going to have to be isolated for 10 days. We have to treat them like a real confirmed case, even though they may have been infected in February, had the symptoms, be well out of trouble. But, and I had some people who were not very pleased to learn that. They went out of curiosity because they were sick in February. 2 men and a woman who were sick in February thought they probably had it, never had a swab. One did have a negative swab, but he didn't even believe it at the time. they had the antibody test last week and they all came back positive, but they were doing it more or less for their own curiosity. But one guy said, I was thinking about being able to donate my plasma to help the cause, because I do have the antibodies. But now they have to be isolated for 10 days from the day they had the test, because we don't know if they're new or old. So we have to treat them like they're a real case. And that's another thing that I think we're doing now, but maybe 2 weeks from now, we might be lightening up on that too, because more and more people are getting the blood tests. So, yeah, it's not boring.
Yeah, evolving.
So, hey, Mike, just real quick in respect to like resources, do we have opportunities to either reach out, and Chris, you may know this, either reach out to MEMA or FEMA or National Guard to get people, like nurses, to help do the contact tracing, or do we have the ability to look at funds to use during the emergency for that?
We have the opportunity for the funds through the money that was granted to the Board of Health. I could do it through that way. Also, Donna, you didn't mention the school nurses.
The school nurses and also the CTC, that's a contract tracing collaborative. So
Yeah.
I'm sending some of my cases to them. When they first started, they said I couldn't send them congregate settings or healthcare workers, and that was all I was getting. That was 2 weeks ago. Now, I've sent them anyway. I have a supervisor at the CTC, and I talked to him, and he said, send them along. He said, I don't know if this is true, but he said the state spent $200 million on this program. I have 1,000 people sitting here waiting for something to do. You send us whatever you want. And then I had talked to Anne Marie in North Attleboro, and she said she's sending them everything she can. So I started sending them more because I just couldn't keep up with it. Now, the probables, they're telling us, that's what they're calling the people who have blood tests, call them probables. They don't want those going to CTC. So I'm not doing that. I'm taking those myself. But it has helped me immensely to have the CTC.
If it did get out of control, to answer the question, no, we do have funding to cover that extra. And like I said, we could still reach out to, we've had a number of retired nurses call in looking to help out and that type of thing. So we've got a line of, a log put together for people that want to help. So I think right now we're in pretty good shape. And I think we're in good shape for, most of the future. I agree with Donna, though, it's going to get extremely interesting when the vaccine comes out. It's going to get pretty crazy, but, I think that's a ways down the road.
Okay, well, good to know, because, certainly, and I worry too, Donna, about just burnout. I mean, you've been doing this for a long time, so.
Yes.
I
I take my daily walk.
I'm sure you are, Chris. Okay, and then I
What
just,
you did on Mother's Day.
oh, right.
14. I got 14 cases on Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day.
It's unfortunate. My only question on the last thing, Chris, I like your ideas for, what you're doing in the shields and stuff at town hall, and then thinking about the safety plan for the election and town meeting. Just wondering process-wise, I know, Mike, you sent along the KP law information about what needed to be approved after the Board of Health made recommendations on closures. For the reopening, does that process-wise, does it have to go through selectmen approval as well? Just thinking of timing that we make sure that we're available if, we need to do that quickly.
Before we open the town hall, we would bring that to the Board of Selectmen.
Right,
Okay.
right.
Okay. Great. Thank you, guys. Appreciate everything you're doing.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else have any questions or comments?
Brad, this is Jack. No questions.
Yes,
Just
Jack.
want to commend you. Just want to commend you guys for what you're doing. It's amazing, and we're lucky to have you guys and your staff helping take care of the town. So appreciate you very much.
Thank you, Jack.
Thank you. So I can go away now?
Yes, you can go for that.
You can.
Thank
can
you.
Thank you very much.
Hi, Donna.
Thanks.
You have anything else, Chris, or are you all set?
I'm all set, thanks.
Okay, thank you too for all you're doing for us.
Thank you, sir. Thanks, Chris. Thank you.
Okay. If nobody else has any questions or comments, we'll move on to our second piece of new business, which is a proclamation of Norton, Massachusetts as a Purple Heart community. Jack, do you have that proclamation?
I do. Give me 1 second to pull that up.
You can have 2 seconds if you'd like.
All right, I got it. So, any discussion first, or we just want to read through it?
Just read through it, and then if there's any comments or discussion after, it'd be great.
All right. On behalf of the Military Order of the Purple Heart, Town of Norton, Mass. Proclamation for Purple Heart Community. Whereas the people of the Norton, Mass. Have great admiration and the utmost gratitude for all the citizens of our community who have selflessly served in the armed forces that has been vital in maintaining the freedom and the way of life enjoyed by our citizens. And whereas citizens of our community have been killed in action while serving in the armed forces and have been posthumously awarded the Purple Heart for their ultimate sacrifice. And whereas citizens of our community have been awarded the Purple Heart for their boldly bodily sacrifice of being wounded by the hand of the enemy while engaged in combat. And whereas the Purple Heart is the oldest American military decoration and was created as the badge of military merit, made of purple cloth in the shape of a heart with the word merit sewn upon it, on August 7, 1782 in Newburgh, New York by General George Washington, then reestablished as the Purple Heart on February 22, 1932 by General Douglas MacArthur. And whereas the heritage it represents is sacred to those who know the price paid to wear the Purple Heart, and whereas August 7th is nationally recognized as Purple Heart Day, and now, therefore, be it proclaimed, we, the Norton Board of Selectmen, hereby proclaim Norton, Massachusetts, a Purple Heart community, honoring the service and sacrifice of those from our community who are awarded the Purple Heart while serving in our nation's wars, and also be it proclaimed that Norton, Massachusetts will recognize August 7th annually as Purple Heart Day and urge our citizens and organizations to display the American flag as well as other public expressions of recognition of our Purple Heart recipients.
Thank you, Jack. Does anyone have any comments or questions?
Rod?
Yes, yes, Sal.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Stell Flett, Norton Veterans Officer. Without hesitating, I'm here tonight to support your signing of the proclamation for Norton to become a Purple Heart town, so that as a community, we may recognize and honor the Purple Heart recipients in our town who've been killed or wounded in action, in combat particularly. I think this is a great opportunity to come together as a community to support and to show our support to those recipients who are still with us. I'm not sure if Gary Cameron was able to join the Zoom or not, but Gary Cameron is a Vietnam veteran and Purple Heart recipient who is very much in support of the town becoming Purple Heart town. We had thought that this would be a good opportunity, whereas our Memorial Day parade had been canceled due to the COVID-19, to take an opportunity to become a Purple Heart town, as well as honor Memorial Day. And we're hoping that on Monday, May 25th, to perform a ceremony on the town common that will be videotaped for the public to enjoy from home, and take the opportunity to make it like a visual. So when they see the Purple Heart raised on the common on Monday, the 25th, while thinking of Memorial Day as being a day to recognize those who picked the ultimate sacrifice for our country. The Purple Heart will also symbolize the same. So doing the two at the same time, honoring the two at the same time, I think is a perfect segue into being a Purple Heart town, and as we go along in the future, to recognize August 7th as Purple Heart Day, and take the opportunity Right now, as we are, we've started a campaign asking all Purple Heart recipients to please contact my office so that we might create a list in town. One does not exist at this time, and there is not any one location throughout the state that has a recording of every Purple Heart recipient. So we are taking on that campaign to identify those folks so that we can, when we do have events throughout town, we can make sure that they're included and recognized.
Okay, thank you, Estelle. Does anyone have any questions or comments?
Brad, it's Jack again. Estelle, I think this is probably the first thing that you and I talked about within the last year, and I'm so excited and honored to have been able to read that in. I don't know if I mentioned, but my dad was a Purple Heart recipient in Vietnam, so I got a little choked up reading that on his behalf. So thank you so much for championing this and leading our community to this designation. It's a great honor. Thank you for sharing that with me.
And Brett, if I may, I just wanted to, Jack's comments. My father was also a Purple Heart recipient from Vietnam, and so I'm in full support of this, and I think it's a great thing, and I articulated it very well, Estelle, so thank you very much.
Okay, I didn't know either. So, and like most people walk through town and not knowing who is or who is not a recipient of a Purple Heart, but they surround us. And I think by becoming a Purple Heart town, it will draw some more attention to the sacrifice and the courage that they've shown in combat.
Thank you.
And Brad, if I may?
Yes, Renee.
I was just going to say, Estelle, thank you too for your support of this and being the champion for it. I think it's a wonderful idea. And, also separately, thank you for the time that I had a couple questions for Estelle on this. I just wanted to be fully informed, and she took some time yesterday, quite longer than we expected, but she gave me a lot of information, has a lot of great ideas about this, and, making sure that the information's out there. So thank you, Estelle, for that time and for what you do.
Thank you.
Anyone else? In that case, I'd like to just thank all the Purple Heart recipients and the veterans. And I think Estelle's job to find them is probably going to be difficult because from my experience, the veterans are very quiet about the dedicated service they performed and don't really like to toot their own horn. And I appreciate all the service from all the soldiers and sailors who have served this country, but especially the Purple Heart recipients. Anyone else? Okay. Thank you, Estelle.
Okay.
And with no other comments, we'll move on to our third order of business, which is a proclamation of the 2020 Police Week of May 10th through the 16th. Jack, if you have that one, you can read it for us, please.
Is that the email from Chief Clark?
I believe so, yes.
Yep. In 1962, President John F. Kennedy signed a proclamation which designated May 15 as Peace Officers Memorial Day, and the week in which that date falls as Police Week. Due to COVID-19, the ceremony surrounding Police Week in Washington, D.C. will be held virtually. This will not deter us from remembering and honoring those who have paid the ultimate sacrifice. This year, 307 names of officers will be added to the wall. Members of the police department will hold a brief ceremony on Friday, May 15, 2020. I respectfully request that the board formally proclaim this week as Police Week and urge residents to remember those who have paid the ultimate sacrifice. That is from Chief Clark.
Okay, thank you, Jack. If I may go back on an oversight, I think probably on the proclamation of the Purple Heart Week that the Board of Selectmen should take a vote on that just to make that official. So Chair would entertain a motion first to make August 17th an annual Purple Heart Day in the town of Norton.
So moved.
Second.
I believe it's August 7th.
It's August 7th, yeah.
What did I say? 17th?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
If I
Brad,
said
is
it
it,
incorrectly,
Brad, is it part that we not only have the annually recognized August 7th as a Purple Heart Day, but also that we become a Purple Heart community?
I'll take that as a friendly amendment. Yes.
Yep, so moved.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. And Renee,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes.
Jack,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
and I'll also vote yes. Okay, now that I clean up that error on my part, I'm not used to doing this at my dining room table. With that order of business completed, I'll entertain a motion to name the week of May 15th as Police Week in the town of Norton.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll take a vote. Renee,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes.
Jack,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
and I also vote yes. Thank you guys for the votes and for my missteps there. Let's see, we'll move on to our next order of business, which is a vote to appoint a joint transportation planning group. Mr. Units?
Keith Silver is our current appointee to the Joint Transportation Planning Group, and he has asked to be reappointed. And I am the alternate and also asked to be reappointed.
Okay. Are there any questions or comments by the members? If not, Chair would entertain a motion to appoint Keith Silver as the representative to the Joint Transportation Planning Group. And,
So moved.
And
We'll take them
Mr.
separately?
Michael, you- Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I move that Keith Silver be, that we nominate Keith Silver to be our representative.
Represent. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion or comments? If not, we'll take a vote. Renee,
Yes.
Mary,
Yeah.
Jack? Yeah, I heard
Yes.
it. Thank you. Mike,
Yes.
and I'll also vote yes. Then, as an alternate member, do I have a motion to appoint Mr. Michael Units as our alternate member?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? If not, we'll take a vote. Renee,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes.
Jack,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
and I'll also vote yes. Okay, thank you. Okay, the next order of business is a vote to award the fiscal year 21 surge contracts for paper, water and sewer treatment chemicals, and DPW supplies. Mr. Units?
Yeah, these contracts, as you said, through Surge, is the group, that consortium that we belong to with about 20 other communities. And the first is paper, and all the recommendations are to award to WB Mason for the paper supply contract.
Okay. Chair would entertain a motion to award the paper bid to WB Mason.
So moved.
Second.
Is there a second? I believe that was Jack.
That was Jack. Yep.
Okay, thank you. Is there any questions or comments?
Brett, I just have,
Yes.
I have one question.
Yeah.
Mike, because this is through, Surge Regional Administrator, like, do you have input into the other information, like the other, what's the word I want? Not bids, but the other estimates?
Suppliers, the other
Yeah,
suppliers.
yes, thank you.
There, WB Mason was the only bidder on the paper contract.
Okay,
That must have made it easy to decide who to give the bid to, huh?
It's not,
Okay.
it's usual.
Yeah. Is there any other questions or comments? Okay, we have a motion and a second, so we'll go to a bid. Renee,
yes.
Mary,
Yes.
Jack,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
and I'll also vote yes. The next bids are for the water and sewer department treatment chemicals.
There's 5 products that our water and sewer department uses. They're listed: the liquid potassium hydroxide, potassium permanganate, sodium hypochlorite, and sodium hypochlorite. One is 55-gallon drums, one's truck delivery. And on these bids for the water and sewer chemicals, there were at least 4 to 5 on all the bids.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions on the bids?
Brett, this is Jack. I have one,
Yes.
probably more of a procedural thing, but if this is for the water sewer department, why do we need to approve it if they're an enterprise account?
Because as part of the Sursage contract, we always have the selectmen sign off on it.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Mike, did you receive input from them? I mean, are they comfortable as well?
Yeah, Sursage has the first Tuesday of the week, they meet with DPW and water and sewer superintendents, so they go over all the bids.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? I don't think I asked for a motion in a second, so could I have a motion, please?
So moved.
To award the.
To award the, yep,
As
the town manager.
described.
Second.
Okay. Unless there are any questions or comments, we'll go to a vote. Renee,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes.
Jack,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
and I also vote yes. And finally, the DPW supplies. Mr. Units?
So the DPW supplies, it's quite an extensive list. It goes from everything from stone and sand to pavement materials, manholes, frames and covers. And also for fuel, gasoline and diesel.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions on these bids? If not, Chairman.
Brad?
Yes, Renee.
I'm sorry, same question on this. So Keith has weighed in or as well?
Yes, Keith represents us at all the DPW meetings, and the DPW directors and highway superintendents review all the bids that come in. And they vote to award before they send them on to the board to be approved, the Sursage board.
Okay. Mike, we have both diesel and unleaded in the tanks back there?
Yep, the trucks take diesel.
Okay, it's a small little station. I didn't know that there were two. Thank you.
If there are no further questions, Chair, entertain a motion to award the DPW supply bids as described by the town manager.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. And we'll go to a bid, a vote.
No, we
Renee?
already went to a bid.
Yeah, I know.
Yes.
I'm not used to this in my dining room. Mary?
Yes.
Jack?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
And I also vote yes. Okay. Now we'll go to old business. Discussion on the town meeting.
A lot of the issues Chris talked about that they're working on to develop the safety protocols. And I know the board was waiting to the governor does whatever the governor's going to do on the 18th. But we're not going to be able to meet a June 8th town meeting. We're just not going to be ready. And I was hoping tonight that we could open our special town meeting warrant with a date of June 25th.
Any questions?
What day of the week is that?
Thursday.
So, I mean, my preference is that we do it on a Saturday during the day. But I still think, I felt like, I mean, we only have a few more days to wait for that. I'm not sure why we'd make a decision now. And I guess that, to that point, I know we were waiting to see for the 19th if Lauren was going to be available to have a further discussion on this.
I'll let Mr. Units answer, but I think the idea is he wants to get the warrant open just so that we legally have the number of days required to have the thing advertised.
And you can always change the date of the town meeting, but at least we would get this opened and everything advertised and posted, and people could start submitting whatever articles they may have for a special.
But isn't it only open for a limited amount of days?
Correct.
I mean, so my advice would be, like, we can give people more time. They can get the articles ready to go. And next week when we decide on a date, it essentially gives them more time, and then you open it up. I mean, why would we open it now and then have a really a shorter window? Then we'd have to close it.
It's the same, whenever you open the special, it's only open for the same amount of days.
Right.
So people have known from March or before that, when they submitted their budgets, a lot of people knew they may need something at a special. So everyone is always ready for a special. So we just need to open it so they can submit any articles they may have. And once we get them, then we can, it'll give more time for the finance committee to review any articles that come in, and you to review any articles that come in.
If we were to open the warrant this evening, what would be the deadline for accepting articles?
So if you open the special town meeting tonight, all the departments would be notified that tomorrow that the special is open. The ad would go in the newspaper. On the 15th, they'd all be notified. The ad would go in the newspaper. Well, I'm on the wrong date. So it's, once you open it, the next day we'd let them know, it would go in the newspaper. So the 14th, if you open it tonight, the 15th, we notify them, it goes into the newspaper. On the 19th, they'd publish. May 27th, the warrant would close. And then we could forward a copy. Now, if you want to wait until the 20th or the 19th, whenever you're going to meet again, it would be the same. So if you want, if we wait until the 19th or 20th, so say we wait till the 20th, it would be the same process. The next day, departments would be notified. Then the ad would go in the paper. They'd have, it would be published 5 days later by the paper on the 26th. June 2nd, the special will close. And then June 5th, the copy will be sent to the Finance Committee. And June 9th would post the special town meeting warrant. And June 16th would post it with the special town meeting warrant and recommendations. So if you, at the next meeting that you have, which whenever you meet the 19th or the 20th, we could get that process going.
Am I correct in assuming that the main reason behind opening it tonight would be that all the advertising and article review would make it so the thing would be ready for voting for the people on the June 8th date that we have?
If the June 8th, I don't even know if I have that one with me anymore. Let me
Yeah, no,
see.
I'm just wondering, because the June 8th date is still there. We don't expect to use it, right? We haven't changed it. And I was just wondering if that was the driving force behind getting it opened now versus waiting like a week or two or whatever.
Yeah. We can wait a week, but I would not wait longer than that.
So Mike, is Lauren available for the 19th? You were going to follow up after the last meeting?
Yeah, I'll check with her, I'm not sure.
Yeah,
I mean-
my preference, oh, sorry, Renee, go
Oh,
ahead.
go ahead, Jack.
I was gonna agree with you. I think, waiting until next week when we have more clarity, would be good. Sounds like we can make both sets of dates work. I'd rather not rush, because I think one of the takeaways I had from past conversations about town meeting was try to limit the number of articles that were going to be brought forward. So I think understanding what the landscape might look like at that point would help us a bit on that topic. And do we need to have a special? Is there something that you're aware of that needs to go on there, or is this just a customary practice?
It's a customary practice, and the public could submit articles for a special. When it's advertised, anyone can submit an article to you.
So I think if we're trying to shorten the duration of a town meeting, I would say, why would we do a special if we don't know of a direct need, and we can try to address it at a later time?
If someone needed funds for this year, this current fiscal year, you would have to do a special for that. If someone was short in a particular account, or they needed to handle something that couldn't be handled with year-end transfers, then you would need a special.
So you're referring to the fiscal year 2020?
Right, yes.
Okay.
Is there any way that you could poll the department heads between now and next week?
Yep.
And find out if there is a need for a special, and if not, with the state of things now, and trying to minimize the agenda as it is, we might not call for a special unless it's absolutely necessary.
That's good, yep.
Okay,
agree, Brad,
that way you
because
get back to us. You get back to us if there is a need, even if it's one article. But if there's no need, I can't see dragging out the meeting that we're going to try to, we were talking about shortening anyways.
Yeah, especially since, if I recall correctly, we cannot decline to put on a citizen position, right? FinCom can not move it, but it can still be moved while we're there. We can't take it off the warrant, so.
Correct.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah. So it might make more sense to find out if we absolutely need it, then we'll act upon it. If not, why open a Pandora's box? So, I mean, unlike people's perception, it's not a dictatorship, so that's my opinion. And I believe that Jack and Renee's if everybody's all right with that, then I suggest that we delay making this until next week.
I'm good with it.
Okay, thank you, Mary.
I'm good with it too.
Okay, thank you, everybody. We'll delay this until we get feedback on whether or not there's anything pressing from the town government side or the school side that would require us to have that special.
And Brad, can I just ask, I mean, if we're gonna meet on Tuesday, an agenda has to be posted tomorrow, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So can we check on Lauren's availability and get that moving?
Because what's our deadline for rescheduling the town meeting? I believe is it the 20th or 22nd? Do you recall, Renee?
I think the 22nd, but Mike, I'd ask you to confirm that.
I will.
But I think that's why we said the 19th, so that if we needed another day, we had a day
Yep.
to do it.
Yep. Yeah, I believe so.
So your date, I don't have my calendar in front of me. Let me see.
I'm trying to find it too. I went and grabbed my file.
It would be 14 days before June 8th.
Yeah, and then with the weekends and Memorial Day, I think it brought it forward. So I think the 22nd is correct.
The 22nd.
Well, it's 14 calendar days, right, excluding holidays?
Yes. Trying to get to it.
Are you counting, Mike?
Yeah.
Okay.
So June 1st would be 7. Memorial Day is the 25th.
He's gonna take off his shoes and socks.
So it would be the 22nd. It would be the 22nd.
Okay.
So do you want to schedule your meeting for the 20th? Wednesday, the 20th? Then we
Fine
could
with
give
me.
Lauren some more time and see if she's available.
It's fine with me. I have limited engagements for some reason.
I would suggest that we check with Lauren tomorrow and book it according to her availability.
Okay.
Sooner the better. So if she is available on the 19th, that would be preferred. But much like Brad, my social calendar is pretty open right now. I can make any night work.
I'm been watching you and Mike having a competition on the facial hair, and it reminds me before I could grow facial hair, they used to have a competition in town on I believe it was when they were having the annual, not every year, but when they would celebrate the anniversary of the founding of the town, they would have what they called the Brothers of the Brush competition, where all the men who wished to compete, they would, oh, you too, Peter.
Yeah!
But they would compete to see who could grow the best beard before the celebration. And people would vote on it at the barbecue or whatever they had to celebrate.
We should bring that back.
Well, the only problem is we can't get together to vote now.
We'll do a
Yeah,
Zoom
no,
meeting.
There you go. A Zoom barbecue. Okay. So we'll wait for confirmation on the date that Lauren's available for our next meeting, and then we can decide on dates that are relevant after that, if that's all right with the board.
Okay.
Okay. On to town manager's report. Mr. Unit?
Okay. Just to go over, we continue to work on the budget And so obviously everything is up in the air all the time when we do our budget. We never have our state aid before the town meeting, so we always have to go on our best estimates. And obviously this year, making your best estimates is very tough because nobody knows which way the economy is going to go. The alphabet soup of it's going to be a V, it's going to be a W, it's going to be a U. So we're just progressing with what we've checked through history and what happened, back in 2008, 9, and 10, and what little we've heard from the state legislature. So right now, the budget, our local receipts proposal is about 23% below what we actually collected in fiscal 2019. We're obviously concerned about any new growth in our receipts with this tough economy. We don't think that people are going to be out there buying a lot of new cars, and mails tax is going to be down. So we've reduced our local receipts by 23%. And then on the budget itself, along with the local receipts reduction, we've looked at a reduction in our local aid. So our unrestricted government aid, we've cut 10% from what we got this year. So that's about $220,000. And we're hoping that the federal government will come up with some money for the state, and along with the rainy day fund, they'll be able to put money into Chapter 70. Right now, we're holding the governor's number. If we're level funded, it would be another cut of $72,000. And if they cut Chapter 70 aid by 10%, we'd be in big trouble, because that would be $1.2 million to us. This was the year that the state was on a roll to increase Chapter 70. So we're hoping that they'll at least hold harmless and keep Chapter 70 where it was. We're using $600,000 of free cash again, and this year to offset the reduction in the state aid. And as you can see, our local receipts, our original estimate were at 4.8, and we're now down to 4.4. So I'm proposing that we use $439,500 of stabilization money. And also, we've been running 2 ambulances the last few years, and I'm proposing that we use another $100,000 of ambulance receipts for the budget.
Mike,
Yeah.
can I ask on stabilization, that's to move funds from stabilization into the budget?
Yes.
And I know when we had the auditor in, right, he said that it's between stabilization and free cash, we're a percentage or two above typically, where he would see. So have you considered that to actually move more money now, so that if, I mean, it can always be returned back to free cash, but just in preparation for this, so we didn't have to go back and have additional approvals?
Well, we'll always have, in the fall, we always have to adjust our budgets up or down. So, I mean, with this, I'm proposing that the school budget would go up 2.5%, the town budget up 2.22%. And when we get into the fall, depending on what happens with state aid, we may need to use some more stabilization at that time. But
yeah, and that's my concern, is I'm thinking if we run into the same issues of the fall meeting, right? Like if it does, like your W is very similar to what they expect for the pandemic, where they're gonna go into second wave, it's gonna be worse than it is now. We're gonna go into a similar wave like we are now, or we're gonna have some reduced waves. And I'm just wondering, I don't want us to get to a point where we're dependent on having a town meeting to move additional cash into stabilization, and we still have, a much greater health concern at that point. So I'm just wondering, should we increase that a bit now? Especially, depending upon how this pandemic goes, we may actually need more funds up front. Just food for thought, because we don't know what the fall's going to bring.
And, obviously the concern is for us that we've been very conservative in our budget and revenue estimates, so that we've generated a lot of free cash over the last few years, and put money in stabilization, which is obviously helping now. And the concern is not next year, FY21, but FY22. In the past, the second year has been the worst year, because our revenues this year have been pretty good, but next year they could be, the revenues are down and we're not going to be generating that free cash. So 22 would be an even worse year. One of the unfortunate things that's fortunate to us is because we're considered a ability to pay community, our increase in Chapter 78 this year was only $72,000. Other communities, such as like where I live, are going to be devastated if they cut the governor's proposal for Chapter 70, because they're really dependent on that more than we are. So I just hope that the federal government will come through and there'll be something there that they can put towards the Chapter 70. Our fixed insureds have been helped because the health insurance came in at only 2% this year, 2% increase instead of projected 5 to 8% increase. So that's why our fixed insured expenses are a little bit lower than we originally projected.
Any other questions?
Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Units. Okay, I guess we're on to the Blue Star Business Park.
Yeah, we had a call with Blue Star, the developer of Blue Star, Jeff O'Neill from Condy the other day. And building number 5, if you've been down there recently, the steel has been going up this week. That's a 220,000 square foot building. And the first tenant in this building is to be up and running by August 12th. So they're on a fast schedule, obviously, on that project. So the second building that you see out front, the walls have started going up this week. That's building 4. That's 130,000 square foot building. And they do have a tenant that will be taking up 40,000 square feet of that building. And Mr. O'Neill said that he still says the high bay market, which they deal in, is still very strong, and he sees no let up. He said the companies still want to be in this area, so hopefully that'll continue. Just another couple things. The Tri-Town Chamber, I was on a call with the Tri-Town Chamber today and the other town managers from Foxborough and Mansfield, and Paul DiGiuseppe, our town planner. And there really weren't that many questions from the people, but I did mention, and I want to get out there to the businesses in Norton, whatever the governor's going to do on the 18th, that they really should start making their reentry plans now, whether it happens or not. They should at least start planning on what they'll do for social distancing, what they're going to do for hand sanitizer, making sure people have masks, And especially restaurants, when they start getting ready to open in some fashion, before they say you can open up now, if they could just start planning in advance and give us a call, and so you can, get on a Zoom conference with the fire department, the police department, the health agent, the building inspector. So if your plan is you want to add more seating outside so you can handle more customers, we can start dealing with that now. Senator Feeney introduced legislation today that would allow the selectmen to approve alteration of premises for restaurants with alcohol licenses, and it wouldn't have to go through the ABCC because that's a long process. And by the time that happened, the summer would be over and the business would be all done. So I just encourage people that as they start thinking about, a possible opening, to start doing the planning in advance and ask us questions. We're here to help.
Mike, did you say you're gonna send a letter out to local businesses with that information?
I did not say that, but we can let them know. And another question for the board, one of the things I saw one of the towns was doing is they were relaxing the signage bylaws because, technically you're not allowed to have the A-frame signs out, but just some way to try and help some of these businesses that are in the Roach Brothers Plaza, for example, that open up, just so they can put something out there to let people know. It's a unique time, and so just if you can be thinking about that, if that's something you might be willing to look at.
I'm sorry. So we have a bylaw that says they can't use an A-frame sign.
I think it's they're limited to, even if they can, they're limited to the number of days it's allowed to be in place.
Yeah, there's a limit. I think they have to take it in at night. I seem to remember something like that with the hot dog stand.
Yeah, signage is always like the thickest part of any town zoning bylaw. People are very particular about having any sign. We get calls all the time when people put A-frames out. Send the building inspector down there, get that shouldn't be out there, so.
I mean, personally, I'd be open to doing anything we can to help the local businesses. But it'd be nice if we're going to vote on something like that, if we could get possibly the town planner at our meeting to kind of weigh in.
Yeah, any ideas that we get, and Paul has a survey out there, any ideas we get, we'll bring to you, so you can give us some input on them.
Mike, is that something that you can be prepared to bring to us next week? And then we can vote on those? Because I think, we don't know what he's going to say, what the governor's going to say on the 18th, but I think that'll just be one more step that we can provide to them to say, look, these are the things. I'm sure there might be other things that Paul's aware of too, but if we can take action on that immediately, I think it would be a little bit better for the business owners.
Okay.
And Mary, I can't believe that you remember something for a hot dog stand.
She was told.
I know. Oh, there.
So, Mike, quick question. Has Condy announced publicly who any of the tenants are yet?
They have not.
Okay.
Anyone else have any questions?
No, but I have a comment. Jeff, we had Jeff at the IDC meeting, and he did share that for the large warehouse at Wayfair was the person or the company going in.
Excellent.
It's nice to know a tenant that I actually recognize the name.
You order from them, Brad?
I'm cheap. I don't order from anybody. Okay. If Mr. Eunice is all set, we have
Just one more.
Yes.
One more thing, Brad, if I could.
Go ahead.
I just want to thank the 11 towns that assisted Norton in the fight with the fire last night down in Barrisville. 11 towns came to the aid of Norton, plus the fire department. Wanted to thank the police department, the Norton EMA, the Mansfield EMA was also there, the State Department of Fire Service, the building commissioner, the water department, SEMRAC, National Grid, DEP, the Providence Canteen Rehab. They do a great job setting up to give the firefighters a place to get some water and have a break during the fire. So Mansfield, Easton, Attleboro, North Attleboro, Taunton, Raynham, Foxborough, Rehoboth, Dayton, Berkeley, and Plainville all helped, and they did a great job.
Incredible. And also for people to know that the fire department, police department, fire marshals are looking for anyone who might have information on who was in or around that building that may have caused the fire. They have any information would be totally in confidence. And I don't have the phone numbers in front of me, otherwise I'd give them, but I'm sure if you call the police department or the fire department, they could direct you or take the information. But any information could lead to up to a $5,000 reward. And they desperately are interested in finding out how that started.
So I see we have Chief Simmons on. I had seen in the article from Sun Chronicle that there was a few firefighters that had sustained minor injuries. Any update on them? I hope everyone's doing good.
Everybody's actually doing well. There was one firefighter that was transported, mostly out of an abundance of caution as a precautionary measure. We have one sprained knee and two that were just evaluated with mild heat exhaustion. So everybody's doing well. Thank you for asking.
Good, excellent.
Yeah, and Brad, if I could now, Chief Simmons, I just wanted to commend you and you guys. That's right in my neighborhood. And I was surprised at the expediency with which you guys knocked that down. Because I know it was getting live streamed on Facebook and it didn't seem like much. And then all of a sudden I saw the helicopter view and I was ready to start stuff out of the house. So
yeah, it was huge.
Yeah, it was huge and very impressive. That I couldn't believe how quickly you guys got the smoke to clear. So very well done. It's just another example of what a great what great safety departments we have in this town.
Yeah, everybody did awesome. They worked really hard. They did a great job, honestly. In total, we had about 60 firefighters there probably, and about 12 command staff members. So
I couldn't believe how many fire trucks went down Barrow Street.
Yeah, we had probably about 15 pieces of just fire apparatus not come out, and not counting for manned vehicles and support units and so forth.
Yep, and the police department did a good job with the traffic flow as well, so all good. Well done.
Thank you, Chief. And thank you, men. As Mr. Eunice, and women, I'm sorry. As the chief was, as the town manager was reading all the departments that helped out, it reminds me of the old days when they used to have the fireman musters. And they'd actually, I know Norton had them, Foxborough had a big one. And it was amazing to watch them do their competition drills and see all the apparatus in the parades. But I'm showing my age again.
I remember those.
But thank you and you guys for a job well done.
Will do. Thank you.
John, good job. John, good
Thank you.
job.
Thank you, Peter. Okay, does anyone else have anything? Now we're on the report, Selectmen's report and mail. Anyone have anything they'd like to bring up?
I'm all set, Fred.
I'm all set.
I'm good.
Okay.
I have a couple things, Brad.
Okay, go for it.
And I know we're going to go through the meeting minutes, but the good thing about reviewing those meeting minutes is there are some items in there for follow-up that we haven't followed up on. So one of the things I wanted to bring to the attention in February, we talked about Chris Carmichael doing an inspection of the senior center to make sure that we were in compliance and didn't see an issue like we did with the town hall. I just wanted to see if that had been completed and if he's prepared to deliver a report to us at the next meeting.
I don't believe it's been done, but it looked like Mr. Eunice was taking notes on that. Is that correct, Mike? Mr. Eunice,
Yeah.
there you go.
Hi, Brett. Yeah, I'll check. I don't remember, to be honest with you, but I'll check with Chris on that.
Okay, thank you. And then there's been a lot of emails going around with the item for the food support in a joint meeting. I don't know what everybody's thoughts are on that. I thought that we were clear last week in respect to getting a separate, smaller group together.
That was my understanding.
Okay. Because I don't know if we've responded or if anybody has any other opinion, but I know, Mary and I offered to do it. And I spoke briefly with Bill. He has a couple of people who are interested in as well. So I think that it's probably in our best interest to just make that happen.
Yes, especially in light of some of the emails that were darting back and forth later this afternoon about questioning the funding on that. Do you have anything on that, Mr. Ewan?
Say that again, Brad.
Well,
You broke up.
Renee was speaking about how at our last meeting, we had talked about a subcommittee with members from probably school, finance, and selectmen regarding the food assistance. And I was saying that it seems especially important to do that in light of the emails that were bouncing around back and forth regarding the funding.
I think it would be much better to have subcommittee. So, I mean, it's a tough subject to be talking about, if you have a smaller subcommittee, it would be much better. We're not confident that we're going to have enough fund. We don't have anything in our budget to cover that funding for the food program. And there are a lot of agencies out there that people can go to that will supply food. Just in this area, there's a ton of them. And, Beth Rossi is available to assist people and letting them know where to go. And, the charitable organizations, they're set up to do this service where we're paying a company at the schools that's, handing out the food, where these people, this is their business. That's what they're in business. All these charitable organizations, they know how to raise the money. They have all volunteers. Their overhead is a lot lower. So it's just a tough subject to figure how, we can't keep using taxpayers' money to fund that.
So I mean, Mike, I wasn't really thinking about the fact that we would stop providing the food through the Norton Public Schools. I think that it's well known. I think it's a comfortable place for residents to go. Like my concern is that we do get together and we figure out how we're going to pay for this. So I guess I'd want more information on, in respect to why couldn't we use taxpayers' money to pay for the additional 25%? Not saying that we wouldn't also seek other resources for funding, specifically from the nonprofits. But I wasn't anticipating any sort of change to procedure or process that was currently going on.
Well, that's if we're guaranteed the 75%, because Senator Kennedy's office told me that for the students, yes, and for the seniors, yes. But there is no funding for adults, non-seniors, non-children. There isn't a funding category for that. I mean, that's what they told me today. But if a subcommittee is formed, maybe you'll find something else out. But I just don't. Just my opinion. I don't see why the town is doing this service when there are charitable organizations all around us in the town. The food pantry's open 2 more days a month right now. And there's other agencies where they can, people can obtain food during this time. And that's what they're in operation to do. The schools are in operation to educate. Those people are in operation to assist people with food assistance.
But the schools have that requirement as well. I mean, while it may
to feed students.
Well, right, but I mean, you're saying that they're not set up to do that, but they, I mean, you know, whether it's an adult or a student, to them, it's the same thing. They're providing a meal. I think the detail behind whether or not the funding for adults and how do you separate seniors and children, I mean, like, so if I think of it this way, right, I'm a family in need, I have children, I'm going to go to the school to get their food, and then I'm going to go somewhere else to get mine. And then you know, Jack and I did the PSA on this, and we got all that information from Beth, which was great. But if you look across the organizations that provide food, you're essentially going to a different place 7 days a week to get food. I just don't understand why, if they're equipped to do that, why we wouldn't continue to support that. I mean, again, my understanding of the subcommittee was so that we could help fund that additional cost that wasn't going to be reimbursed, not that we make any change to process.
Yeah, but the town isn't in the business to feed adults. The kitchen at the school is to feed the students, and we have charities that are in business to do that. It's just, especially in this economy, I don't see how we can financially take on that burden if people have an alternate place to get food that they need.
So I don't know if anyone had a chance to read what Matt Wells had sent earlier today, but it does appear that there is a category for reimbursement that deals with individuals that are undergoing food hardship. So I think that is a viable opportunity. And I mean, we are in an absolutely unprecedented time. I think the unemployment in the country is up over 36.5 million people in 5-6 weeks. We are in uncharted territory, and I think that if we don't try to work every lever we can to provide for the families in town, shame on us. And anecdotally, I heard from somebody involved in the food service that they were told by someone with tears in their eyes that the reason that they can pay their bills is because of the food that they're getting through the school system. So, I mean, I don't think people are taking advantage of it. I think we have a lot of families that are struggling right now. And I hear what you're saying about there's other organizations that are out there and perhaps better suited. But from the PSA information that Renee and I did, a lot of those are open 1 day a week. Like, you have to be here on a Tuesday between 4 and 4:30. The fact that people can go there 5 days a week and get meals prepared for 7 days a week is a huge item for a lot of the folks that are hurting right now. And I fully support the subcommittee's effort to try to find a way to keep this going until the state of emergency expires, and not change the program.
And you know, I know we talked about this back in March, and I think I was pretty passionate again for it. And I have to say, from a taxpayer's perspective, I mean, if I fell on hard times and I've been paying taxes for years, and now like the town is going to tell me, well, there's nothing we can do to support you. I mean, I think that's a cop out, and I think we owe it to try to fund this, with whatever means we can. So that's my 2 cents. Brad, like, from process procedure, I mean, again, I have no intent on changing the current process. From a procedure, though, with a subcommittee versus just an ad hoc group, I just want to understand, open meeting law guidelines, because I think time is of the essence. And, if it's a matter of we can't meet collectively for 2 days because we have to post an agenda, like how do each of those function from subcommittee versus ad hoc? Are the same requirements there? Because there's no quorum of any group.
Right, I don't believe there is a open meeting requirement, but I defer to Mr. Units. I think as long as we stay like with only 2 selectmen, 2 school committee members, and like 2 finance committee persons, there is no quorum from any elected board. It's just like 6 people getting together to discuss a problem. But
I
Mr.
will,
Units,
I will check on that for you, Brad, because I think we before had to advertise the ad hoc committee meetings. But I'll double check and let you know.
okay, but in the meantime, can we make sure that the finance committee and the school committee both are aware and understand the intent? Because it seemed to me with some of the emails, there was a question of why there was the need for a ad hoc committee or subcommittee or whatever we want to call it.
Okay.
And I can, with Mary's help, we can certainly do an outreach and get this thing going too.
Okay. Anything else? Renee?
Oh, I'm sorry. That was my item.
That's all right.
We talked about Lauren's availability, talked about the fire. So yeah, one thing that came up during the IDC meeting, and maybe it was after, and I see Michael Tools on, so I'm gonna ask him to speak to this, but there was a property that came up in discussion that used to be, I want to say, an old K-8 school, and it's now on the market to be sold. He sent us the group a link on it, and it's Michael, I can't remember if it was 1 Taunton Ave or what it was, but
it's actually 1 Taunton Ave. It's the old church. It's the New Life Church, I believe it's called.
Oh, let's see.
And they're on the market for $2 million right now.
And the town, I'll let Mike speak on this, but the town manager, I believe, has gone down with the building inspector and has inspected that property. But Mike, if you want to, Mr. Units, if you could speak on it.
Yeah, we had a tour of the building, myself, the building inspector, and Beth Rossi from the COA, the health agent, and it's a steel frame building, and it's kind of odd levels. I'm trying to think of what the zoning is there, but
it's commercial, right?
I think it is. I don't remember. We looked at so many properties on Tuesday.
So I'm not sure. We looked at it and just the cost to renovate and the life expectancy of a metal building that has been up for quite a while wasn't worth the town investing in it.
So it's better to stay in the building that we're in, knowing that there's probably no likelihood that we have any sort of a debt exclusion for the next year and a half while we go through this economic crisis.
Well, that's something we'd have to look at, but it would be thrown. It would just be throwing money away to go in that building. It's not handicap accessible. Doesn't have handicap accessible bathrooms. The office, it's basically a church with some small classrooms in the basement.
And then what about the other building, right? Does it have another building too?
That's the 2 buildings.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask the town? Mike, did you feel that the site was, forget about the building itself, site was developable long-term? You could develop it long-term, where to Renee's point, it might be a short-term fix and more adequate for what we need with a short investment, then maybe that's the site that becomes permanent council on aging building.
I would not want to speculate on that. That would be something the building committee would have to look at. It's kind of neat. There's no storage out there. It would need a new septic system. And I know when I went out there, I almost thought I was in Taunton. I thought I had gone over the town line. It's so far out, but
yeah. Okay. Thank you.
And it does look like it's R60 too. Zoned R60, just as a side note.
Okay.
Okay, thanks, Mike.
Yep.
Did you guys engage the permanent building committee at all in the discussion?
Yes, Diner,
O'Brien.
and whoever the COA rep is on the building committee, I forget the name right now.
Marianne?
Bob, something or other.
Yeah,
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, hearing none. Go on to report of the warrants. Okay. Payroll warrant PR 20-23. For the week ended May 2nd, 2020. Warrant dated May 7th, 2020 in the amount of $1,362,432.24. And also approved invoice warrant AP 20-45 dated May 7th, 2020 in the amount of $1,097,035.52. And invoice warrant AP 20-46 dated May 14th, 2020 in the amount of $786,115.25. Just as a footnote, not like it's earth-shattering, but I did notice that a large amount of the funds on the invoice warrants, I believe, are refunds for probably athletics at the schools and activity fees and things like that. Okay, moving on to approval of minutes. I know that Renee has looked at basically the February ones? I wrote it someplace.
Yeah, it was all but one of them.
Okay, so Chair will entertain a motion to approve minutes that the board is comfortable with approving.
So I would move, Brad. Do you want to do them individually or all together?
I think we can do them all together.
Okay, so I would move that we approve the meeting minutes for February 6th. And this would all be the latest that were provided by Jen. So February 6th. For February 13th, the amended, just noting the
address on Mansfield Avenue.
yes, yeah. And then February 27th, the Board of Selectmen meeting, not the joint meeting, and then April 2nd meeting minutes.
Okay,
So it's February 6th, 13th, 27th, and April 2nd.
okay. Is there a second to that?
Second.
Okay, thank you, Mary. Is there any further discussion? If not, Chair to entertain a motion to approve February 6th, 27th, April 2nd, and the amendment of the February 13th meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go to vote. Renee?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Jack?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
And I also vote yes. Okay. And the remaining, we're still waiting for approval or
Yes.
corrections. Okay. Next scheduled meeting is the 28th, but we'll probably have one someday next week, depending on the availability of Warren, and we'll have to wait for Mr. Units to get back to us on that.
Would probably make sense to ask for the town moderator to join us at that meeting as well, Mike. We can make sure that that gets done.
I'd say the FinCom chair as well.
Great point. Do we want to extend that to the moderator candidates as well? I believe we did that as a courtesy the last time we talked about town meeting.
Can you take care of that, Mr. Units? You're muted.
I'll take care of that, Brad.
Thank you. I can't believe I can tell when somebody's muted.
There you
How
go.
it advances, huh? Okay, unless anybody else has else to add, Chair, to entertain a motion to adjourn.
And,
Yes, Peter?
yes, if the state of home order is lifted and the state of emergency is lifted at the same time, will we have the open meeting law abolished?
I'm sorry, I missed part of whatever you said, Peter.
With the state, if the state of home order and the state emergency is lifted on May 18th, will we have a meeting at the media center and will the meeting law be abolished?
I think we're gonna be meeting electronically for the foreseeable future, regardless of what the governor says on the 18th.
That's right, and if it's lifted, will we have to have meetings in person, right?
No. If he lifts it, I think we're probably gonna still meet electronically.
Hopefully we
Because
can
I
get.
don't, because I don't believe that even if he lifts the state of emergency, that he's gonna entertain the fact that everyone should be getting together and seeing each other.
Right,
Okay?
that's right.
Okay. Did you have something, Jack? You just popped up on my
no.
screen.
Sorry, I was,
Okay.
well said.
That's all right. I'm not used to these electronic things, and if I see something pop up, I just, I think I was in the looking for a motion to adjourn. I'm not sure if I got it or not.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. We'll go to the vote. Renee,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes.
Jack,
Yes.
Mike,
I was gonna vote no, but it looks like I'm overruled, so I'll go yes.
that's it. And I'm gonna vote yes, and thank you all for putting up with my stumbling through this.
Thanks,
Okay.
guys.
Good
Everybody.
night, everybody.
Have a good night,
Good night, all.
everybody. Have a
Stay
good night, y'all.
Good night.
Have a good night. Good night, everybody.